Welcome to Fun Duh Mentals, where you want to go and what you want to know to develop a playful mindset. I am your host, Baron von Merkva. This week, I want to examine what motivates us enough to finally act on something. And I want to keep it confined to non-emergency situations, right? I mean, if a Black Widow spider suddenly landed on my hand, I don't question what motivates me to get it off of my hand. Specifically, we'll look at our motivation for doing things we don't really have to do, we just want to. Now, on the surface, it seems like a no-brainer that we're more motivated to act when the consequences would be severe for not acting. Showing up to work or getting your kid to school are not really options in that sense. There are many examples of things we kind of just have to do, whether we're motivated or not. So is the fact that there aren't any immediate consequences, is that the main reason why we struggle to act on our goals? Most of us have heard of the idea that, in general, we will do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. And most of us know enough about the survival game that goes on in our heads to explain at least some of our erratic behaviors. I really want to do this. So why don't you keep acting on it? Because I don't feel like it. It takes too long. It's too hard to sustain. Yada yada ding dong. I've always thought that it was weird how often I do not feel like acting on my goals, even though I am super excited about reaching them. Am I just lazy? Am I just not connected enough to my vision? Did something about acting on my goals seem too painful? And I realized that I am afraid that my efforts may prove insufficient to reach my goals. I found the idea that I might not be up to the task very painful. The possibility that what I did today, tomorrow, next year wouldn't make much of a difference at all. Ouch! Maybe it's better not to chase my dreams at all. My life might get a little stale, but at least I don't risk the pain of failure again. What makes any of us get up, dust ourselves off, and jump back into it again? What motivates us to try again, no matter how many times we've botched it in the past? How do we overcome our fear of the pain that is possible along the way? Now, being about fun and all, I don't like weighing which would be the greater pain to avoid in life. I am a firm believer that having a big, bright vision for ourselves will ultimately light our way through the dark fears and doubts. Yet, I also think it's valuable to acknowledge that fear of a painful outcome. Everyone gets terrified at the prospect of a hollow future. If you don't, you've already checked out. And as much of a proponent of play that I am, I'm not so hypnotized by my own hype not to realize that I've still got fearful thoughts to contend with. However, if we do generate that big, bright vision often enough, for long enough, we can actually use our fears to motivate us. The bigger fear will be missing out on an amazing life. The sharper pain will be if we don't act on that vision. This is a little twisted, right? Get yourself more afraid in order to overcome the initial fear? That sounds like going to some pretty dark places. It sounds pretty uncomfortable to confront what we're afraid of. And it is uncomfortable. Makes you feel a little icky. Yet when we can name it, it makes it a whole lot easier to see the fear when it's holding us back. And then it becomes a lot less scary. See, I think everyone is naturally motivated to chase their dreams, even though the fear of pain is always going to be there. If I live to be 100, I'll still freak out if a black widow suddenly lands on my hand. But our motivation to act for that big, bright vision is something we can always tap into. If you find yourself unmotivated to take an action you really do want to take, try this. Here's a little tip you can play around with. Whenever you notice that resistance to taking the action, promise yourself that you won't take that action today. Just stop all the hemming and hawing about whether you feel like it and tell yourself, okay, I am not going to take that action today. Done. That's the first part. The second part is to take just a minute and really think about what pain you're avoiding by not acting. And be detached about this. Don't turn it into guilt-tripping yourself. Don't try to talk yourself into it. Just try to identify what the fear of pain is for just a minute. Then go about the rest of your day. Is this some way to trick yourself into taking action? It sounds like deliberate procrastination, right? It's just to get us to become aware of what stops us in life. You may wind up acting anyway, or you may keep your promise to not act today. It doesn't matter. The point is to keep recognizing the fear of your pain. Again, not the most pleasant activity I can think of, but it's quite useful because I think we often ignore just how fragile are our commitments to those things we don't have to do. And simply by acknowledging that, our natural motivation has a chance to overrule the fear of pain. By continuing to uncover what stops us from acting and not trying to make ourselves want to, you will find that your motivation to act anyway will get stronger, and the fear of pain will get weaker. Plus, you'll spare yourself a lot of agonizing over it. You feel me? Now, go out and play around with this. Just be careful. You don't want to hurt yourself.